Is everybody good?
Have you got my Liberty going, bud?
Yep.
Thank you. And you got my other one going?
Yep. Everybody all set?
Let's go.
Unmuting mics. Again, I turned off everyone's mic before you got here. What happened since then? It's on you. So, everyone? Yeah, just put the note there.
It should be red, right?
Red is on, yeah.
All right.
So mic's going live in 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. This meeting is being held with the benefit of public notice as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Carabelli?
Here.
Ms. Phillips? Here. Mr. Whalen?
Here.
Mr. Papero?
Here.
Mr. Ty?
Here. We'll start with a salute to the flag. Councilman Papero, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's just have a moment of silence for all families in Hamilton and throughout the area who have been affected by the pandemic, followed by the invocation. Councilman Carabelli.
Dear God, please provide this council body with wisdom and compassion to make the best and appropriate decisions for the residents of Hamilton. Please bless the people of this township, country, and world, and continue to watch over those who are struggling with loss during this pandemic. We continue to offer our prayers tonight, dear Lord, for our first responders, doctors, and nurses. They have worked tirelessly and selflessly to ensure that lives are saved. And may we always have hope in you, God, and recognize the beauty that surrounds us during this season. In all these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Carabelli. And our first item is up for discussion is the New Jersey Reentry Corporation Community Resource Centers and Corporation Overview. Fred, Director Dumont, before you, Bianca, could you get Fred? He's running away. I was just going to ask him, since he's here, to, Fred, you've been a champion of this program, the reentry program. And if we can find Fred a microphone
You know what, let me
where
get
he
one of
can
the
safely speak, I'd like for you to, since you've joined us here, to just say a few words about this program. It's our intention, assuming there are no objections from any members of council, to write a letter on behalf of council in support of this program. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say a few words about it.
Thank you, Council Chair. What this is the New Jersey Reentry Program is applying for a grant through the State Parole Board to open a reentry facility at the Mill 1 project in cooperation with Isles Incorporated. And what this program would do, it would be for parolees, both men and women who are released from prison, who are looking to come back into the community. And it would have a doctor on staff who clears each individual medically. It would have a number of counselors on staff, including drug and job training counselors. It would have an attorney who would help the parolees address any warrant issue they may have. And what it is, it's a direct program that helps parolees transition from prison back into society. We all like to think that this is not a Hamilton problem, but it is a Hamilton problem. This facility would be for all Mercer County residents. It would be run by former Governor Jim McGreevey, who's a strong advocate for this. It's being supported by a number of businesses, a number of our religious organizations. Pastor Woods is a big supporter. Former Senator Bill Baroni is going to be very active in the program, and we think this is huge for our whole area. I know the mayor's written a letter in support of it, as have I. A number of our legislative officials have. Our freeholder board has issued a letter of endorsement. But for the grace of God, that's one of us here. So I would ask the council to endorse this program. I think it's something that's needed and needs to be addressed in our area.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Director Dumont. There are, like you said, a number of Hamilton residents every year who will be eligible for participation in this program. I think it's in our own self-interest to support a program like this and to ease the transition back into civilian life for parolees. I want to thank Councilwoman Phillips. She wrote a great letter that we're going to use, on behalf of council, so thank you, Councilwoman Phillips, for that. And did anybody have any comments, anything they wanted to add? Yes, Councilman Carabelli.
I just wanted to ask Fred, Director. So, let me just ask you this. Are we we're in the process of submitting the application, and this would go to the parole board. How do we feel, what do we feel, we've laid a good application, put a good application together, so we feel confident that, is this a very competitive process? I'm just curious of the process. This is with the New Jersey Parole Board, correct? The application is actually going to be submitted to them.
That is correct. It's an award issued from the State Parole Board, and we are not the applicant. The Reentry Corporation of New Jersey is the applicant. These letters are in support of this application.
Okay.
I believe it's $700 and some $1,000. It's a large amount of money, and but we won't have any direct ties to it. It'll be independent of our township activities. We just feel that it's a good proposal, and we want to get behind it. Now, the model for this is up in Hudson County. It's primarily a North Jersey project. We don't have any provision like this in Mercer County at all. And south of Mercer, the only other CRC unit is in Camden County.
And it's a rolling, they will announce awards on a rolling basis? Is it something that is there a specific date in 2020 that we'll know if they were successful or not?
So our goal is to get all our letters of support into the Pro Board by June 1st. I believe the application period ends July 1st. We would like to be the first ones with a completed application, and the only thing that's missing right now is our letters of support.
Thank you, Director. I think it's a very important project for our whole region. I appreciate all the work that you did in pushing this and the support that the mayor has put behind this project. I think it's a very good project, and I think that'll offer opportunities for those that are in this situation.
Councilman, how this really started is we had a meeting right here in this room with Isles talking about rehabilitation in the Bromley area, and Marty Johnson brought up about rehabbing homes and cleaning up the neighborhood and bringing dignity area, and I interjected that if we wanted to bring true dignity to any family, it starts with a job. And without a job, families just destabilize. And then Marty talked about the difficulties with reentry and background checks and things like that. And I asked him if he had ever spoken to Governor McGreevey about it, and he said he had a difficult time getting a hold of Governor McGreevey. Jim's a close friend of mine. I called him, and he was down here within a week, and we put the proposal together, and it's been moving ever since.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of council with comment?
I just want to thank Mr. Dumont for putting in all that work and getting this program. I believe you're correct in saying that the first step in true dignity is a job, being able to, obtain that job and being able to provide. So thank you for everything that you've done for it, and hopefully it moves forward.
So, seeing no objections from any members of council, Director, you will have our letter tomorrow in support of the program.
Thank you, council, and thank you all members of council for that. We greatly appreciate your support.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so moving on to the consent agenda.
Council President, you have items 2A through 2G for your consideration.
Any members of council wishing to comment on items 2A or 2G? Seeing none, let's open it up to the members of the public for comments on the consent agenda only.
Q&A session has started.
And the lines are open to members of the public who have questions or comments regarding the consent agenda items 2A through 2G. We'll just give a moment for any members of the public. They hit *6, correct? Yeah. Oh, you might have been speaking too close to your mic, actually.
And Pat needs to talk louder.
Okay. Seeing no members of the public wishing to comment on the consent agenda, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion, Mr. President, close the public portion and move on the consent agenda items 2A through 2G.
I will second that motion.
Madam Clerk?
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Consent agenda passes 5-0. Moving on to resolutions. 3A is the resolution consenting to the appointment of Catherine Monzo to the position of Business Administrator.
So, Kathy Monzo, welcome to Hamilton. On my wish list for our permanent business administrator, I had a couple of criteria. I was hoping for someone who had a track record of accomplishment in running another municipal government, and also someone who could help to guide us through the completion of our fire consolidation. Your resume fulfills all my wish list items. You're the right candidate at the right time for Hamilton. So I'm really pleased to have you here this evening to finally be welcoming our permanent business administrator. And with that, I'll just open it up to any members of council who wish to comment or any questions. Or, you know what, before we even do that, Smonzo, did you wish to make any comment?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very excited to be here, and, as somebody just said to me, you've been hitting the ground running, and so I hope to get up to speed very quickly, but I'm very excited. You have a lot going on. This is a beautiful, wonderful community that I've known for a very long time, so I just really appreciate your support of me, and glad to be here.
Thank you. Any members of council wishing to make any remarks or any questions?
I just wanted to also just thank you and welcome you and look forward to working with you.
Okay.
I'll echo the same. Look forward to working with you and welcome aboard.
Good. I've come to know Kathy through many years, and initially through her husband. The only questionable decision that you probably made, no, I'm joking. A good man, and a good friend. But your resume speaks for itself, and I'm excited to have you on board. I think you're the right person at the right time. So I'm excited. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. And if no other members of council wish to comment, then we will go ahead and open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
You're funny. We're good. So if any members of the public wish to comment on consent agenda item 2A. Terry. Hello.
3A.
3A. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Council President, she needs to identify
Oh, yeah.
herself, please.
Terry, would you tell us your name and your address?
You said Terry, so I figured you knew who I was. This is Terry, and I'm from New Jersey, and I was just wondering if Catherine, Monzo walks the board, if you could tell some of the residents about your past history.
Oh, you know what, Terry, before hey, Terry, can you hear me? Before we proceed any further, because we're doing this by telephone, we're going to ask you to give us a little more detail on identifying yourself.
But I don't have to do that, residents still, they don't feel comfortable in doing that, but it's not in the order.
Can you give us your last name?
Piper? You know my last name.
Well, I do, but for the record, we appreciate it.
Okay, sorry. Gotcha. And I was just wondering if you could tell some of the residents about your past and your resume so that you could share that information with the council knows that hundreds of residents would like to know a little bit about your background and what made you come to Hamilton and things like that.
Kathy?
Thank you, Terry. I'd be happy to talk about a little bit about my background. So I started really in finance, and so I have a large finance background when I was a CFO and a tax collector for several other municipalities. My main position was with Princeton Township at the time, and as council president had talked about having some experience in consolidation. The Princetons went through a consolidation where I was part of that as the administrator for Princeton Township when we consolidated the two towns. So it's a huge job to do, and so I know what you're facing with the fire consolidation, and I'm very happy to and anxious to be part of that. And then from Princeton, I took a position as business administrator with the Township of North Brunswick, and I've been there for the last 4 years. It's a wonderful community, but when I had an opportunity to come to the community here, it's closer to my home and closer to my heart, and although I had a wonderful experience in North Brunswick Township, I was very excited about the challenges here in Hamilton Township, so that was the reason for my interest in the position here. So that gives you a little bit about my background. You know, I grew up as a Jersey girl, and for a little bit of time in my adult life, I got dragged kicking and screaming to another state, and I lived in Florida for a little while, but back about 20 years ago, I moved back to New Jersey, to this area, and this is where my heart is and where I plan on remaining for a long time, so. But thank you for asking.
Thank you. Eileen, how are we on time?
Thank you.
We're good. She's good.
Does she have more time, or is she out of time?
She has more time.
Okay, Terry, did you have anything else?
No, I just thought that the residents would like to know a little bit about the background that both you and Anthony were talking about, but we didn't know about.
Okay.
That's fine. Then welcome aboard.
All right. There are no other members of the public wishing to comment, so I will entertain a motion on Resolution 3A.
I will make a motion to close public comment and make a motion on 3A.
I'll second that motion.
Very good.
Today's session is over.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3B is a resolution approving application of Thomas B. Hannum and Tonda Hannum, De Pasquale, doing business as Cycle Smart, New Jersey, a second-hand automobile dealer license. This is a public hearing on the application.
Any members of the public wishing to comment? I was looking at this. It's a motorcycle dealership. They're going to be going into the where Dunham's used to be at Independence Mall, if I'm not dating myself. There was a
Dunham's,
gym,
wow.
And then,
You dated yourself, all right.
Rick, I remember it, yeah.
you and me. All right. Well, at any rate, it's going to be an Independence Mall. It's a unique use for the space. Do any members of council have any comments or questions?
I do not.
My only quick one is it's going before us because it's, an auto dealership
Yes,
as I was-
it's a hearing on the applicants themselves.
Okay.
It's been approved by zoning. I believe the applicants are on the line, if the council
Okay.
has any questions of them.
Did the applicants wish to make any remarks in support of their application? Can we open up to, I'm not sure what their phone number is.
It might be
Thomas
Mr.
Hannum.
DePasquale or Hannum.
I got a deep swallow.
Okay, that's one of the individuals that is involved.
I got John deep swallow.
Okay, yes.
Hello, Mr. DePasquale. I'm sorry? All right, so I'm going to assume that the applicant does not have any comment that they wish to make, and unless anybody else on council wishes to... Oh,
Yes, yes.
Now we can hear you. Did you have any statement you wish to make?
This is Tanja DePasquale. I'm one of the applicants. My brother is also on the line. We're having trouble unmuting.
Okay, well, we've got you unmuted.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't think we have any questions. Did you have any questions for us?
I don't think so, unless any members of council
No, sir.
had anything.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, listen, welcome to the community.
Thank you.
We wish you all the success. We are going to open this up to public comment before we actually take a vote on it. So, we'll go ahead and do that at this time.
Okay.
Okay, that's all right.
Session has started.
And so it's open for public questions or comments regarding Resolution 3B at this time. Okay. Ms. Hannum?
Yes, this is Tom Hammond. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Hannum.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh,
very
Mr.
much.
Hannum, I'm sorry, before you get started, could you just state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Thomas Hammond. We're the applicant for the Cycle Sport location.
Oh.
And get on the before. I'm very sorry about that, but I just wanted to make a comment or so, if I could.
Absolutely.
All right, I just wanted to say thank you very much for the approval of the zoning, and we're very excited about being a part of the community. I hope everybody's families are safe and sound. We also have a lot of pride in our motorcycle businesses. This year is the 65th anniversary in the business, and we would love to give back to the community. So it's something we're excited about being a new business in Hamilton Township. Just wanted to let you know that we're also here to be a part of the community. For example, we're doing a motorcycle run this Saturday from 12 to 3 to support Middle Memorial Hospital. And, we're very much entrenched in the community. And we just, thank you very much. The township has been outstanding through this whole process. I know it's a very difficult company to start a new business, but we're just very, very excited. I'm going to be there in person to show our passion and enthusiasm for the sport. And just wanted to let you know that we're here to work with the township any way we possibly can, and we're very excited to be a part of the community.
Thank you, and I know, I'm personally appreciative that you are continuing to forge ahead under difficult circumstances, and as I said to Ms. DePasquale, I wish you all the success with your project in Hamilton. So with,
Well, thank you very much, and looking forward to meeting you guys sometime soon.
yes, perhaps at your ribbon cutting.
Council President, I just wanted to mention, for the record, there are some items that go with this license. You might want to make that part of the record. There are 4 items there, and there is a 5th one, that the South Broad Street is going to be the only street that they can do test drives on.
Right, and I know that the applicant agreed to these at the planning board hearing, but I'll go ahead and put those into the record, Mr. Hannum. So, the conditions imposed by the planning board include applicant is limited to 1 facade sign not to exceed 10% of the front facade area. No changes will be made to site lighting. Vehicle displays and sales will be limited to the interior of the property. Obviously, you're next to, I think, a grocery store there, so it would probably be problematic if a large portion of the parking lot is taken up by motorcycles. Any deviation from the application submitted as amended herein or failure to comply with the representation set forth in the records will result in the application being declared null and void. But we do anticipate your cooperation. So, thank you again for joining us this evening, Mr. Hannum. And unless any other, Mr. Councilman Reparo.
Yep, Mr. Hannum and Ms. DePasquale, I'd just like to welcome you to the town. I do know with the governor announcing that the auto dealers are available to open tomorrow. Hopefully this will kickstart your business, and welcome to the community. Just want to say thank you again, and if we can help you in any way, please let us know.
Very
Well,
good.
thank you very much. We really appreciate it. I just found out about an hour ago that this was a call-in meeting, so I will let you know I have a tie on at 6
Well, thanks for dressing up. We appreciate it.
So, thank you. Yes, we'll get all this later.
Okay, yeah, if you're able to stay on the line, we may refer back to you depending on any questions that come up from public comment.
Yes, I will do my very best. Yes.
Great, okay. So with that said, we will mute you for a moment, Mr. Hannum, and we will go to Janice Galanick. Hello, Janice.
Hello there, President. Hi, Janice Black, for 32 Trinity Avenue, Cornell Heights.
Hello, thank you.
And I do know where the old office is. I know the exact location.
Good.
So...
You, me, and Chetty.
Anthony Danton. My question is, you kind of sort of answered it. It's going to be all new motorcycles they're selling, like the car dealership's not used motorcycles. It's just all new ones that they can go and look at and buy like different items. Is that what it's going to be?
It's secondhand.
Oh, second-hand motorcycle.
Yeah.
Okay. That you can go and see if you want to buy it.
Yep, and you can do test drives. They've agreed to limit the test driving to Broad Street so as not to encroach on any of the residential areas surrounding Broad Street there.
I'm just curious.
Or the parking lot for that matter.
So that's most interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you, Janice.
Q&A queue is clear.
Okay, seeing no
She's on the Spitfire.
further members of the public wishing to comment,
Mr. President, I make a motion to close the public portion, and make a motion to move resolution number 3B.
I'll second that.
thank you. Madam Clerk?
Q&A session is over.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3C is a resolution authorizing a 3-year shared contract for catering and concession services for events held at the Stay House and Gardens with Heirloom Events, LLC, New Jersey Wedding and Events, and D&D Catering Services. This matter was tabled at the May 5th meeting.
And that was, we've gotten clarification on the information that we needed. The percentage fee of sales is revenue to the township. So I know we got clarification on that point. So did any other members of council have any additional questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, why don't we go ahead and open it up to the public?
Q&A session has started.
And the line is now open for members of the public wishing to comment on Resolution 3C only. You can press star 6. Okay, seeing no members of the public wishing to comment,
Council President, I look to close the public portion, remove from the table 3C, and move forward with approving 3C. Can I have?
yes.
Second that motion.
Madam Clerk?
Q&A session is over.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3D is a resolution establishing a contract with Civil Solutions, New Jersey State Contract Number 00872, to develop a GIS data conversion service in order to create a roadway asset inventory. Contract is in the amount of $115,860 maximum. This item was tabled at the May 5th, 2019 meeting.
So I want to welcome to the meeting Director Markley. Thank you for joining us. You joined us here today just to kind of give us a general overview of the benefits of this proposed program.
Sure, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure coming in and explaining what I know about how this can help our town. First, I'm going to preface this by saying how large the asset. I just want to put it in perspective. Hamilton Township has 625 lane miles of roads, and that's broken down into 1,249 road segments. These are maintenance segments. It takes us right now, 3 of our road inspectors, 5 weeks, about $30,000 each year to rate 1/3 of the road system. That being said, those 3 inspectors would never get it right. I mean, yes, they do the inspections correct, but they would never be the same. It's very subjective when it's done by a human being. This road evaluation would take the subjectivity out of it. It would be scientific, data-based information to help us move forward in a pavement management system. Again, back to put it in perspective how big it is. If we were to want to pave in-house, my in-house public works guys, it would cost us $100 million to pave the roads. In-house money, today's money. If it went out to contract, it would be 2.5 to 3 times that. That being said, if you want to, back streets, on average, will last us about 30 years. Primary roads will last about 15 years. That being said, if you want to average it out, say 22.5 years, we need to put $4.4 million into our road system yearly. If we don't, it's deteriorating. If we do, it may not be deteriorating. This system will give us the benchmark PCI, Pavement Condition Index, for the whole network. If we do that, we do our maintenance system with our capital improvement program in place now, we will know 3 years from now, or 4 years from now, whatever we decide. We can do reevaluate in 3 or 4 years. We will know if that PCI is going up, getting better, or going down, getting worse, which will help us make fine-tuned decisions on how much money we need to put in it, which ones need to be done, which ones don't need to be done. But I don't want to sell this as an end-all. This is just a great tool in asset management for roads. Because what's weighed in on that is the personal touch of, should we do this road? It says it's the worst. Should we do that road? Well, in some cases, the answer is no. We shouldn't do the worst. For instance, Trenton Water is going to cut Mercer or Hamilton Township roads 11,000 times over the next 5 years with lead line replacements. It's federally mandated. They have to do it. It wouldn't make sense for us to pave even the worst road if they were going to go put 100 cuts down the road. So this would make us have all those decisions. Public service is another one. It goes to every house, every utility, every business. The infrastructure is getting old. We have to have good planning with all the utilities and future planning and future development. That all plays in. So this is a tool. It's a database tool. Subjectivity is out of it. And, I believe it's the way to go. Asset management is the way to go. Because, as I said, if you wait, your maintenance costs to go through the roof. That number sounded pretty high when I discussed it 5 minutes ago. If you do nothing, that number goes up tremendously. And again, when we get into the right program, asset management program and pavement management, it's not necessarily the amount of money, it's spending the money correctly to get the good roads to last longer. That's where your big savings is. You're doing the worst road first is not necessarily the key. And again, this is a pavement management system moving forward. We need to educate people on that. You're better off putting your money into your roads that are a little better at the time. And again, this is just a tool to help us spend the money correctly.
Thank you. Very good, Mark. So the cost of an evaluation is $115,860.
Correct.
That is, so currently we do a third of the roads per year using 3 inspectors at a cost of about $30,000 in man hours per year. Here we'd be able to do the entire township based on our conversation in about a month's time. We'd be freeing up those inspectors to do other work from the endless backlog of work that you have for them. I know that you are running your budget on a shoestring as it is, so there's always more work for these individuals to do. Now, it wouldn't completely remove the human element, but it would greatly reduce the human element, because obviously there still has to be a certain amount of common sense that goes into play with the decisions. There will be situations that arise, maybe a sinkhole or something where you're going to have to make a command decision to...
Without a doubt. The other thing that this does is it shows us at a network level that maybe 90% of the road is good. You only need to do a repair on a 10% road. And the whole PCI pavement condition came up because we took care of the bad 10%. Again, savings in money, a smart way of doing it.
So one of the things that we talked about was covering the cost of this program. About half of this cost can be taken from funds for our Transportation Improvement District, which are dedicated only to our roads anyway.
In those districts, correct.
So half the cost would not be coming from our general budget.
Correct.
And when you offset the $30,000 a year in labor savings, really you wind up coming out ahead.
Correct.
On that cost. So it seems like money well spent to me. I do want to open it up to any... I just realized my mic's been off all that time. I hope
we heard.
Director Dumont, did you want to...
Thank you, Council President. One of the main questions we get in our engineering department on a daily basis is, why are you paving that road and not mine? And we don't have the answer to that. This program gives us the answer to say, we're doing this road for this reason, it's number on this list, and you are a number on this list, and we'll be getting to your road on this date and this year. This gives us the scientific answer that we need. And about Director Markley's inspector employees, we're putting together a comprehensive street program between engineering and public works. It's unprecedented. It's never been done here. And we're dealing with two situations where we believe it was poor workmanship by a contractor on our roads. Mr. Markley's inspectors now are going to be able to spend more time watching our contractors that are working on our roads to ensure the quality of work is what we expect. So this is going to improve our program dramatically, allow us to have the answers to our residents as to why we're doing a certain road and why we're not doing one. And I believe this takes our quality and improves it dramatically. So I would ask council, on behalf of engineering, to approve this.
Thank you.
Yes, Council President, Director Markley. One quick question. We talked about, naturally, you're going to have, the roads will be put a queue system, highest priority down to the lowest priority. But one thing I noticed what you talked about is the coordination between whether it's public service or Trenton Water or Aqua Water. How does that information get shared? So obviously, this is a pretty sophisticated system. It's all, modern technology. Does that get shared, obviously, with public service? How do we coordinate?
We can coordinate at a certain level. The utilities, public service is actually very, very good and responsive. They send us their 5-year plan, so we know where they're going ahead of time. The wild card is Trenton Water, because they have to go everywhere. I mean, in most places, we were very surprised. I asked Trenton Water's consultant for a GIS layer of lead services that they believe they have to deal with. Well, the map of Hamilton Township came up, and it was speckled red, the entire township. So they will be going everywhere. So the decision-making process is going to be very tough. And the coordination is, we're going to have to work at coordination very well, because we're going to have to coordinate the paving of the roads after they're complete their repairs. And yes, in the queue, we will be putting notes on Trenton Water didn't get there yet, and we can share this information back and forth.
I just like the fact that we are going to have better ability to manage our roads, knowing the priorities that are most important. The other thing that catches my attention is, and I've lived here a long time, and one of the things we used to, you'd scratch your head and you'd see a road get repaired, and no sooner was it done than public service would come in, or Trenton Water, or if you were a resident in that same neighborhood, you sometimes would scratch your head wondering, why is that road getting done? You look at some other roads in this development, and you're seeing some being prioritized before others, and it just always made you speculate. Did you have to know somebody, so to speak, to get your roads done? I think that takes that out of that equation. It makes it a little more, as far as I'm concerned, makes it a better system as far as...
It's data-driven decisions.
Yes.
And that's where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the funds are spent correctly and to the benefit of all the taxpayers.
Thank you. Thank you for your response.
Council President and Director Markley, thank you very much. I first of all just want to start out that I know when we were first looking at this, I had a million questions, and I really appreciate all the detail and clarification. You can see I have a big page of notes over here, and that really helps understanding this. I just wanted to clarify, it's a 3-year contract, and what you said is it takes about 1 month to do the 10.
Yes.
So is it something that's going to be, because that's going to be captured one moment in time then, right?
It's going to, yes.
So is that repeated at any time during the 3 years?
During the 3 years, no. What is updated in the software is any processes we do to make the roads ready. Any milling and paving that's done.
Okay.
It is going to make suggestions of other processes, maintenance processes, that tar and cracks is one. Every now and then you see tar and cracks. Well, the key to keeping a road good is keeping the water out of it. That's why filling cracks is, so you're going to see that as a maintenance item. You're going to see that as take a big step up. Nobody likes doing it, but it is a big bang for your buck. It makes your good roads last longer. And New Jersey, just another little tidbit, New Jersey's roads are the most expensive roads in the world to fix.
That's everything.
That's a fact, it's a proven fact.
What else?
So it's, and it's going to suggest, it's actually going to suggest a third process, which is more than likely it's going to be a polymer modified thin overlay, which I'm going to have a hard time justifying that money. And I'm going to give you a short story on why. Is we have a milling and paving program in-house. It cuts the cost way down as opposed to contracting out. So when you start talking about putting a third process in there, and they talk about the ultra-thin overlay that'll make the road last 8 more years, well, that costs exactly the same as our in-house process that'll make the road last 18 years or so. So it's going to be a catch-22. If there is a dynamic like that in our program, it'll probably be very limited, and it'll more than likely be in the TID zone. So we can make those, like if you know there's going to be a development coming up and it's a 5-year plan, but the road's atrocious, you have to do something to it to get through. So it may be a good use in that scenario. And again, this is all planning, so.
Okay. My only other question was then, just on behalf of the public, well, one, there's no personnel issue here. We're not, this isn't reducing any personnel. And how do residents' reports then get integrated into that data?
Residents' reports, we have the Q alert system, everybody's familiar with. That will come in, and the Q alert system will be able to generate a GIS layer of complaints. So again, that will be another tool in the pavement management system. If you get a bunch of Q alerts in one area, it's more than likely going to be on an area that this system says is in need of repair as well. But again, maybe it's not a whole section of road. Maybe you can fix the entire road by fixing 10% of it, and then the road segment gets better. So it can be, it's GIS, the base is GIS, so it can be integrated with our Q alert system.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just want to thank you, Director Markley, for coming out this evening and for adding some clarity on the topic, and also Director Dumont. I'm pretty much a bottom, pretty basic guy. When I look at a practical guy, when I see that the numbers for this project, I was a little bit of an eye-opener, but now that you've explained it, and also the idea of 30,000 roughly over a 3-year period, that's 90,000 in manpower, employee power, that's going to be going out. That's going to be now pushed along to different other ideas and other functions that they can oversee. That's encouraging. And then also the fact that there is this trust account that we can utilize to pay for at least half, roughly half of the overall cost. I see the benefit, and overall, it's going to be an improved system that takes out the subjectiveness. I'm all for it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to commend our interim CFO for once again finding ways for us to do more with less and to reallocate our resources more efficiently. So definitely it's been a multi-part process to come to this point. So if no other members of council wish to...
I'd just like to say thank you to both directors for coming out. The information that you provide us with was well worth it being tabled to this meeting until we had the opportunity to hear you talk. We know you're both very busy, but we also know that there's nobody better doing what you guys do. And we commend you, and we have faith that this is the right thing to do. I support it, again, to echo what Councilman Carabelli said, because part of it is going to be able to be paid for, and the money that's going to save, the manpower hours, they'll be able to work on other things in the community. I support it, and again, I thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and open it up to public comment. And so any members of the public wishing to comment at this time on Resolution 3D?
Council President, I look to close the public portion and remove the table on this ordinance 3D and make a motion to approve.
Do we have any? We don't. Okay. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Q&A session is over.
On the
Madam Clerk?
motion, Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
3E is a resolution authorizing and approving a substantial amendment to the Township of Hamilton's fiscal year 2019 CDBG Annual Action Plan in order to incorporate the special allocation of Community Development Block Grant coronavirus funds to be used to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus COVID-19. This is the amount of $398,638.
So, Madam Business Administrator, did you want to add anything regarding, I'm sorry. Let me turn my microphone on. Did you want to add anything regarding this resolution?
I don't have anything to add. I think you all know that this money came in for this specific purpose, and it'll be used accordingly.
Okay. Any members of council wishing to comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public on Resolution 3E.
Q&A session has started.
So while we're waiting for members of the public to queue up, a lot of this money has already been allocated. Some of the projects that the money will be allocated to include the Township Health Department, staff for assistance to low and moderate income households, senior citizens, personal protective masks and gloves, the Bromley Center Food Bank Assistance, the Wilson Center Rent and Utility Assistance. $30,000 has been allocated to Arm in Arm for rent and utility assistance. Shop Hamilton has received an allocation to promote businesses in low to moderate income neighborhoods. Hamilton Partnership for business training. Economic development support to promote job retention for low to moderate income individuals. The Hamilton Advisory Board for job fairs, St. Philip's Church for their food bank, and I think that accounts for most of the allocation. So with that said, do we have any members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none? We have one. Is Tammy on the line? Hi, Tammy.
Good afternoon, or actually good evening, I'm sorry. This is Tammy Duffy, Hamilton Township, New Jersey. Can I ask a question about this? And this is wonderful we were able to get this funding. And one of the largest unfortunate entities that pertains to the deaths in Hamilton has been in the long-term care facilities. So have there been any programs focused on optimizing education and availability of PPE in the long-term care facilities within Hamilton to optimize the outcomes for the patient or the residents there? Thank you.
So Tammy, you know, the allocations from this have gone to nonprofits, and a lot of the organizations that you're talking about are private businesses, so they wouldn't be a part of this program. I know that our health department has been in close communication with the managers of the various facilities throughout the township, throughout the crisis, in order to ensure compliance and that they have what's needed in the way of supplies.
I think Tammy makes, you know, it's a good question. And Alyssa, I guess these monies cannot be used for, for anything dealing with a private establishment.
More specifically, we had about 4 types of areas in which we could designate the monies toward, and they were strictly construed by the federal government, and these are federal government monies.
Okay.
And so we very closely, working with Mr. Dumont, reviewed what and where we could spend the money, and how, and whether we could do it legally. And unfortunately, despite Ms. Duffy's good point, that was not one of the potential places we could spend the money.
And I appreciate that update. I know that the government's been very rigid, a lot of the hospitals also have gotten allocations and are very rigid about what they can use it for. But what would be nice for the public is if we could have the health department update the public on what they have been doing for the long-term care facilities, like the mayor gave updates today on the COVID situation. It would be nice to see the updates from the health department as to their implementation within the community. Specifically focused on the long-term care facilities to optimize outcomes for the residents in those facilities.
Thanks, Tammy. Appreciate it. I see the business administrator making a note of your comments. Yeah, please. Any other members of the public? Seeing no other members of the public.
Mr. President, I move to close the public portion and move on item 3E.
I'll second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3F is a resolution establishing a contract with Zamparelli Contractors for the 2019 miscellaneous curb, sidewalk, apron, and accessible ramp construction at various locations. Contract is in the amount of $245,335 maximum.
Any members of council wishing to comment or ask any questions? I see that we received 12 bids. It appears that Zamparelli was the low bidder. We do have a list of locations.
I guess, Director Markley, my one question would be, this is over a period of time. This is over, estimated time period is like a year, would you say?
It's a 1-year contract.
1 year?
And it's basically, we pay currently, it's a miscellaneous ADA ramp contract.
Okay.
When we pave roads, you have to upgrade the ADA
Correct, okay.
facilities in that area.
I noticed they're doing some work actually on Yorkville Hamilton Square Road right now, so.
Yeah, that's the beginning of it, and then paving from there to the highway.
Okay.
From Hollis to the highway.
Okay.
Any other members of council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, why don't we go ahead and open it up to the public at this time?
Q&A session has started.
And we are open to the public for comments or questions on Resolution 3F. And it appears that no members of the public wish to comment.
Okay. President, I'd like to make a motion to close public comment and move on Resolution 3F.
I'll second that.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3G is a resolution approving extension number 4 to contract 16-130 with Moy Handling Systems for preventive maintenance and emergency repair to the Department of Water Pollution Control's 47-ton transfer crane. This is the amount of $50,000 maximum.
And this is an annual renewal that the township has in place on an ongoing basis. Any members of council wishing to comment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
Any members of the public wishing to comment on Resolution 3G may do so at this time. Oh, so... Okay. So it does not appear that any members of the public wish to comment on 3G. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the public portion and move on 3G.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Pharaoh?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3H is a resolution authorizing the refund of 2018, 2019, and 2020 real estate and sewer tax overpayments and refunds, and the total amount of $45,182.60.
Any members of the public, any members of council wishing to comment?
I need to, Madam Clerk, I need to abstain on this. My immediate family member, my brother-in-law, is actually receiving a refund for past sewer bills.
So noted. Thank you.
Seeing no members of council wishing to comment, let's open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
Okay, any members of the public wishing to comment on 3H may do so at this time. Yeah, do you not hear me? Seeing no members of the public wishing to comment, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to move resolution, or to close the public portion and move resolution 3H.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
I abstain.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 401. 3I is a resolution authorizing the township attorney to foreclose certain property for delinquent taxes and fees in the township of Hamilton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey.
Any members of council wishing to comment? Clancy's old property. And this is pertaining to the solar farm, right? This is just sort of housekeeping pertaining to building the solar.
This is potentially a solar farm. This property is a capped landfill, that there was confusion about who owned it. Hamilton thought we owned it, but then there was $324,000 of tax liens on it, which meant we didn't own it because we don't pay taxes. So to clean that up, the easiest way to go about doing it is to do a tax sale foreclosure on this piece of property, and then at that point, we own it, and we can move forward with a potential redevelopment plan for that site.
Thank you for that explanation. And seeing no members of council wishing to comment, we will go ahead and open it up to members of the public.
Q&A session has started.
We're good? Okay. Just give me a thumbs up. Any members of the public wishing to comment on 3I may do so at this time. Tammy?
Hi, good afternoon. County Deputy in Hamilton, New Jersey. Can you clarify which property in Hamilton it is, what the address is?
Sure. So if you're on Cooser Road, there's the Longford landscaping. Behind that, it's kind of like behind that, and you could go back behind Colonial Firehouse. Right back there, there's an old landfill. And that's the property.
Got it, okay.
It's actually accessible, probably more accessible from Olden.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none,
Council President, I'd like to close the public portion of Resolution 3I and move on 3I also.
I'll second that motion.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3J is a resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Hamilton and the County of Mercer, New Jersey, authorizing and directing the planning board to conduct a preliminary investigation as to whether Block 2154, Lot 1201 should be considered a non-condemnation area and need of redevelopment pursuant to the local development and housing law.
Any members of council wishing to comment? Resolution 3J.
No, but this is just tied to the last resolution that was just approved, because this is referring it to the planning board.
That is correct.
Okay. So, seeing no members of council wishing to comment, we'll go ahead and open it to the public.
Q&A session has started.
And the lines are open for anyone wishing to comment on 3J. And again, this is the same property as 3I. And seeing no members of the public wishing to comment,
I'll make a motion, Council President, to close public comment and move on Resolution 3J.
I'll second that.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3K is a resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Hamilton and the County of Mercer, New Jersey, authorizing and directing the planning board to prepare a redevelopment plan for Block 1602, Lot 2 in the township.
Fred, do you want to say a few words about this ordinance, the cyber district redevelopment area?
Council, we're trying to put together a plan for developing the former Congolian site. This gives us the tools to go to our planning board and come back to council with a plan of action for that site.
Good. And it also includes the train station area?
I know New Jersey Transit's looking at the train station area, but we don't have oversight over that particular parcel.
Right. I understand we don't have control of it.
And just legally, so you understood, the council understands, this area is, these blocks are specifically a part of a much larger area that already has been declared an area would need a redevelopment. So, and that, even though it's several years old, that is still fresh according to all our legal research, and therefore, we are now onto the second part of just doing a plan for this specific piece of property.
And it's an important piece of property.
Yes.
For the township. So, with that, do any members of the council wish to comment?
Council President, I just want to comment to Director Dumont, and just when I saw this come upon the agenda and taking a look, I'm just very excited to hear the plans moving forward on that site. I think everyone's been looking forward to seeing progress in that area.
We've had a lot of developers express interest in that particular project, and we think this is the best way to formulate a plan Council President mentioned the New Jersey Transit Facility, so we would like to build something in conjunction with them. We'd like to be first at it and say, this is what we want, then hopefully we have New Jersey Transit piggyback off of us.
I think it's great. I'm excited that we're doing this. So so just so I understand this correctly though, Alyssa, in 2004, we went ahead and approved of a redevelopment area, but we never created a plan back then.
Not for this specific property. There was a plan, and that was related to another area.
Okay.
It's been broken up over the years. So
Okay.
the whole area is very large. That's been declared an area in need of redevelopment. As you see in the resolution, there, I can't even count how many
There's so many.
lots there are.
Yeah.
So this is just for this specific, a plan for this specific
Okay.
piece of property.
Okay. Thank you.
Council President, just an off-track question for Director Dumont. Naturally, we're trying to move forward with this, Director, and a lot of time and effort's been put into this, but is there any forecast as far as the property, is the completion of the remediation? It seems like it's still ongoing. Is there a time frame or as far as completion, at least so that way, when we are ready, we can start moving forward with whatever project would go in there?
Well, Councilman, they've applied for a number of permits, including some plumbing permits for the site.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not near completion, but I will get an update for you tomorrow and get back to you.
Thank you.
So if no other members of council wish to comment at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
Thank you. The lines are now open for any member of the public wishing to comment on Resolution 3K. Tammy?
Good evening, Tammy Duffy with Hamilton, New Jersey. Gentlemen, my question is when you start to plan what will go into the city, first of all, we all have to finally go into that space. But it would be very kind of the township if they would also consideration impact that will have on the neighbors that live in that community. As you know, we have been asking for some relief on truck traffic in our neighborhood. The traffic is pretty aggressive over the past several years and getting worse. So traffic studies will have to be a must, but will you be reaching out to the public before any final plans are presented before the planning board or zoning board to optimize everyone's time so that developers aren't getting frustrated going through the process because the residents are upset with what's been proposed for that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to all of us that the neighbors of this property remain informed, that we have an open and transparent process as we go through considering the best way forward with that particular property. We're all mindful of the challenges that Cornell Heights and the Assunpink neighborhood have faced, and we certainly want to take that into account as we look at any proposals for that property.
Council President, if I may, to add on to what Ms. Duffy said, where do we stand as far as, have we gotten any headway with the truck traffic being deterred from that area for that neighborhood? Has there been any progress on helping the neighbors out there? Getting some truck traffic maybe deterred to a different route?
I know that this is something that we've been looking at since I came to council. We requested of the previous administration that something be done about it. I think they did a traffic study at one point. There are some jurisdictional issues that have caused us to not be able to restrict traffic as much as we would like to through that neighborhood. Is that correct, Alyssa?
I do believe there are jurisdictional issues with it. Beyond that, I haven't got any updated reports since I've been here.
Can we take a fresh look at that?
Sure.
Because you've been able to uncover some new pathways for things, so maybe you can help us figure something out there.
And just from last year, I recall, and Tammy, you were sort of the ambassador for the community there, working with the council and administration, but we talked about, we wrote a letter, and I think what I recall is the state, one of the officials at the Department of Transportation, they denied it for certain reasons that they had listed, right, Tammy? If I'm...
Yes, that is correct. And then Mr. Dumont had come to my house and met with myself and my neighbor, and he was doing follow-up from that meeting earlier this year, I forget when it was, 17th. Just a few weeks ago, I reached out to him again to get an update, and he said that there are still studies ongoing that he's still reviewing. I received my probation email. But we are hopeful that at some point there will be signage put up because I really believe it's very unsafe when people are tractor trailers into the neighborhood. And I honestly don't want to see another child or something die in the neighborhood like we had last summer. I mean, it was a car that hit us, but these tractor trailers are not driving slowly. I mean, through the pandemic, with people driving on the road, they're driving insanely fast, and they're driving even faster through the neighborhood. So I hope someday that we will get these trucks off of these roads. It's very unsafe.
I know, Councilman Whalen, since you've joined council, that you've been working on this issue as well.
Yes, Tammy, I had the pleasure of meeting Tammy along with Fred and one of our other neighbors to visit the site, or visit not the site, but the neighborhood in question, and to actually to see the traffic, and it wasn't so much the traffic, it's just the disregard for speed. I could certainly understand tanker trucks full of gas coming through the neighborhood to cut through to get to Costco and using that as an access road. And I've had discussions with Director Dumont regarding some of them issues. And then naturally, not to use that excuse, Tammy, by any means, but naturally we get hit with the pandemic. And it's like, you have so many different things happening at once, but I know Fred is still working on it, and will continue to work on it, and I'm sure, speaking for myself and council, is that, we're going to take everybody's opinion and look into what we can do to solve some of the issues that are definitely present in that neighborhood, because if you don't live there and you get to go there and actually stand around and watch what happens, you're pleasantly surprised and kind of, quite frankly, amazed at what you see. So I totally understand what the residents of that neighborhood are going through, and rest assured, we're going to do everything we can to try and correct that.
And we kind of got off topic with Resolution 3K, but I think we're all in agreement that we don't want to see increased truck traffic through Cornell Heights as a result of any development at the Congolan factory. So thank you, Tim. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? Janice. Janice, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Hi.
That is my for the community after Cornell Heights. Just to go back to the truck thing, it was denied because they didn't think it was enough truck traffic, and nobody's been killing after what was printed in the paper. So that was their logic for not doing anything. Now, this plan for the homeowner, you're making the plan what will be there, or people are going to submit what they want to go there, and then you guys approve it.
This
ordinance about?
This gives us the flexibility to work with the property owners, so, and with developers. So it gives us a little more flexibility to work with them regarding what's ultimately going to be built there.
Okay, now, I trust you people, and you will definitely let the Heights know what's going on, because the rule is, as you know, for the solar panels, they only notify people with 100 feet of the area.
Right, when there are zoning or,
That's a big problem.
it's true that when there are zoning or my mic's on. It's true that when there are zoning or planning applications, they only need to notify within a smaller area. With this, we want to be, I think, a little more proactive about notifying the entire neighborhoods that are going to be affected.
Yes, because we definitely will be affected, needless to say, as will the group up towards my Quaker Ridge Road too. So it's that side you across the theater, that's gonna back up horrifically too. But we definitely gonna get, hit because we only have the two main roads where we are. And so make sure that we know what's going on, because like I said, they're 100 feet. I mean, there's nobody there within 100 feet. But on the same thing with solar panels, the only people within 100 feet are the Canadian heat. So we need to be more aware of what's going on. So I trust that you guys will always notify us about this. It's only a matter.
We'll make sure you're kept abreast.
Thank you kindly, and we will revere you forever.
We'll see about that. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate it. Any other members of the public? Okay.
Council President, I'd like to close the public portion, Resolution 3K,
Okay?
and move for its adoption.
I'll second that motion.
Q&A session is over.
Mr.
Madam-
Carabelli?
Yes. Let me call on you, Madam Clerk.
Sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 3L is a resolution authorizing the proper officials of the Township of Hamilton to enter a stormwater management facilities maintenance agreement with Joanne Seafelt Elliott for property known as 4823 South Broad Street, also known as Block 2663, lots 23 and 24.
Any members of council wishing to comment? So this is the stormwater management basin off South Broad Street at the Doctor's Pond subdivision. And the township was paid $34,600 for the perpetual maintenance of the basin.
This is the housing development that sits right off of Broad, correct? And several new homes are going up in that area.
So if no members of council have a comment at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
Okay, so the line is open for any members of the public wishing to ask a question or make a comment on Resolution 3L. It appears that no members of the public wish to comment.
Mr. President, I make a motion to move Resolution 3L, to close the public portion and move the motion.
I'll second that.
Q&A session is over.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to ordinances, we have ordinance 4A, which is ordinance 20-026, an ordinance authorizing the Township of Hamilton's acquisition of certain property known as the Magnosi property, located on Merrick Road and designated as Block 2714, Lot 22, Hamilton, New Jersey, for the purchase price of $98,300. This is second reading and public hearing.
The members of council wishing to comment? Open space preservation?
Council President, I just wanted to comment that I'm happy that we're able to continue to expand our open space preservation.
Whatever you do it. Seeing no other members of council wishing to comment at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public.
Q&A session has started.
And the lines are open for anyone wishing to comment on ordinance 4A, 20-026. We're hoping for reimbursement of 90% of the cost of this acquisition between the county and Green Acres. So it's a bargain if we're able to get full reimbursement. And seeing no members of the public wishing to comment,
Council President, I look to close the public portion of this ordinance on second reading and move to adopt ordinance number 20-026.
Second the motion.
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 4B is ordinance 20-027, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the Township of Hamilton, New Jersey, Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 108, Animals, Article 4, Dogs, Section 108-11, Dog Canvas. This is first reading and introduction.
Any members of council wishing to comment? This is, by the way, just for clarification for the public, a dog canvas is something that used to be required by the state. It is no longer required. It's not actually something that the township has done in some time. Our township attorney, in her ongoing efforts to update and modernize our township code, has uncovered this. And so this is some additional housekeeping that we're doing in order to become compliant with what the law actually says today. So with that said, if no members of council wish to comment, we will go ahead and open it up to the public.
First reading, Council President. First reading, Council President.
First reading. It's first reading. We're not going to have public comment, so we're going to go ahead and close. Yeah, sorry, Tammy. It's first reading. So,
Mr. President, just to be clear, we are just taking this whole section out. So it's hard to understand sometimes when you're reading on the agenda items, the bracketed sections, the whole paragraph is just being taken out. But we were reserving it because in the next several weeks, we are rewriting the whole animal section of the code. And so I don't know how the numbers are actually going to fall out. And so for the time being, we were just reserving this section number and just taking everything out. And then as the weeks go on, we'll be providing you many, many more ordinance sections on animals. And so I look forward to finally clearing that up for everyone.
we won't be doing dog canvases. That's the bottom line.
Correct. We will not be doing dog canvases anymore.
So I'll entertain a motion on first reading.
Council President, I'd like to move ordinance 20-027 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Tide?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 4C is ordinance 20-028, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Code of the Township of Hamilton, New Jersey, Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 385, Sewers and Sewage Disposal, Article 14, Sewer Rental Rates, Section 385-52, Establishment of Rates. This is first reading and introduction.
So this is, we are raising the rates. It's the first time it's been done since 2009, thank you. And what it amounts to is, if we had kept pace with inflation, we would have been raising the rates at a rate of about 2%. So this really catches us up to where we would have been if we had been doing rate hikes at a rate of about 2%. And the fact is, our sewer utility is underfunded at this time. So it's something that we have to do. So if any members of council wish to comment, otherwise I will open it up to the public.
First reading, Council President.
Once again, we're on first readings. For some reason, I keep trying to allow the public to comment. My apologies. I'll entertain a motion on first reading.
Council President, I'll move ordinance 4C 20-028.
I'll second the, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Tide?
Yes.
Excuse me.
And moving on to 4D.
4D is an ordinance 20-029, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Code of the Township of, the Code of Ordinances, Hamilton Township, New Jersey, Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 45-15, Outside Employment. This is first reading and introduction.
Our township attorney wish to say a quick word on this before we move that on first reading?
No, sir, more than what we spoke about last time, which is we were going down, we're going down the amount of hours. I bulked up a definition of what outside employment is. I provided an appeal process for if they were denied. It's now an annual certification, so, because as we all know, outside jobs could change, your duties could change, just like that, inside jobs, our township jobs could change our duties and obligations. And so it's going to be an annual approval process with your director, and if it's denied, then there's an appeal process which never existed before, so we're giving due process to our employees. And also, I also give the opportunity to a director if sometime during the year, the director finds that the outside employment is interfering with your main employment, which is your township and your public service and your public duty, then the director then can revoke that. Whereas once it was a small paragraph, now it's many more paragraphs.
Thank you for that explanation. And with that, I'll entertain a motion on first reading.
A question first?
Okay.
So this is nothing more than decreasing, I know you put a lot of work into it, I don't mean to demean that, but this is nothing more than decreasing the amount of hours from 20 down to 10 that you would need to notify the employer, and also adds an appeal process.
Yes, 10 hours, it changes also to annual, and an appeal process, and the ability to revoke if there's interference.
And it's also not stopping anybody from working, it just makes sure that you notify your full-time employer of the outside employment.
Correct, and actually there is a section about, it would stop it, for example, I can't do outside employment because I'm barred by my legal obligation and my duty, my fiduciary duty to my client, which is Hamilton Township. So I can't go out and represent somebody else adverse, so that would still be in place.
I understand, thank you very much.
And with that,
Council President, I'd like to make a motion on first reading and introduction of ordinance 20-029.
I'll second that.
thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Ordinance 4E is ordinance 20-030, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Code of the Township of Hamilton, New Jersey, Part 3, Land Use Legislation, Chapter 550, Land Development, Article 3, District Regulations, Section 550-82, Manufacturing and Industrial Districts. This is first reading and introduction.
And this is to facilitate the reuse of the Siemens property on Nottingham Way, near the corner of Johnson and Nottingham, a large industrial. We're hoping that as a result of this, that this will bring hundreds of jobs. There's one line, I believe, that needed to be added to the entire ordinance in order to allow this company that's interested in this property, which says repurposing used oils into biodegradable clean fuels. And with that, that would make legal the intended, or the hope, the future use that we hope for that property. So with that, I'll entertain a motion on first reading.
Mr. President, I move to introduce ordinance 20-030.
I'll second that.
Do you have something you wanted to say?
No.
Councilman Kavanaugh? Okay. With that, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. 4E1 is a resolution referring proposed amendments to the Code of the Township of Hamilton, New Jersey, Part 3, Land Use Legislation, Chapter 550, Land Development, Article 3, District Regulations, Section 550-82, Manufacturing and Industrial Districts, to the Hamilton Township Planning Board for review pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-26.
Madam Clerk, do we open that up to the public for comment, since it's a resolution?
No, Mr. President.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Yes, they can have public comment on the resolution. Yes, I'm sorry.
okay. Any members of council wishing to comment on the resolution before we open it to the public? Okay, that said, we'll open it to the public.
Q&A session has started.
And the line is open for anyone wishing to comment on Resolution 4E1, which is really just referring Ordinance 4E over to the planning board for their approval. What are the last four digits of that? The gentleman on H779.
Yes, Joseph Stillwell,
Would you give us your address?
yes, 203 Great Path.
Thank you. Yes.
My question is, I looked at 2019 pollution, water control board last year. Is the sewer rate study being conducted right now, and are we going to get 2% increase gradually every year? Because you said the reason was that their lines were maybe get the extra $9,000 or sewer bill, that every year it's with it really by 2%. So we got to see that.
I'm gonna, you know what, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm sorry, Mr.
Silla.
We will talk about that during public comment. Right now, we're only talking about Resolution 4E1, referring the ordinance 4E to the planning board. But if you give me just a minute, we'll get through this, and then we'll come back to you to answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any members of the public wishing to comment on 4E1 only? It appears that we have no members of the public wishing to comment, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to move 4E1.
Second motion?
Q&A session is over.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips? Yes. Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, and so now we're going to move to public comment, and if Mr. Tasillo wishes to come back on the line, we can address your question regarding the sewer rate hike. Okay. And Mr. Tasillo, if you're there, if you'll just press star 6, we'll get you back on the line to start. Hi, Mr. Tasillo. So, could you go ahead and ask your question again? Let's see.
My question is, briefly for the tax rate that has covered 2008 was reported that the last time the new rate was hiked up, it's been like 2% per year. Are we going to see a tax increase next year?
That hasn't been determined. What we're going to do, Mr. Tasillo, is the township is going to do a rate study, and then we're going to know more about how we're going to have to proceed over the next several years.
In partnership with Robbinsville.
Yeah, in partnership with Robbinsville, making sure that Robbinsville is paying their fair share.
Okay. And is that going to be incorporated into the new annual financial report?
I didn't follow your question. What was it? Is it going to be?
It was mainly asking about the tax rate, but the fact that the rate for the ordinance that we discussed today, is that going to be incorporated in the new water pollution control report that gets released every year?
In the report. The report, it's written by the director. I don't know, probably. I can't guarantee. It's going to be written by the director. We could certainly question her about that when she comes before council to present that report, if it's not a part of it.
Okay. No, I have my question. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining us. Good night. Miss- Okay, so we will go to Darius Happ. Hi, Mr. Happ, could you give us your name and your address, please?
Sure, it's Darius Happ, 3 Nursery Lane. My wife and I live out in what's called the RRC district, and we're actually looking at putting in a coop. We moved to town about 2 years ago, and we previously had just a small flock of like 10, 15 birds. And I don't know how to go about changing it, possibly having it ordinance looked at regarding flock size out in this area.
Flock size, so, you have a flock of, what kind of birds do you have?
It's chickens. It's really between the market thing, the rock where we're coming from permit. We found out that the ordinance requires 200 feet from every property line, which would require people to have 4+ acres. I mean, we're like just under 2 acres here. And the ordinance written for a spot of 100 birds, but we're just not curious. It seems more range towards like a large farm as opposed to a backyard people.
If you wanted to send me an email, I'd be happy to take a closer look at that with the business administrator and the township attorney and see what makes sense. Oh, my name's Rick Ty, so it'd be rty@hamiltonnj.com. Oh, you know what? You can copy the mayor. See, I told you I can't read lips. I warned you. I can't read lips. Spell your last name for me. Oh. You know what? Just so you know, my last name's spelled Tighe. My email's also on the township website.
Okay, yeah, I will find it on there.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Good laugh for the night.
Thank you, Judy. Any other? Hi, Janice.
Hi, Rick. I have two questions. One has to do with what you were talking about Robbinsville and the sewer company,
Yes.
the sewage thing we had on. Because there was an article in the paper how they're going to pay, I think, $8 more than we do, or there's going to be a price hike.
True.
Now, was it ever settled, there was that big thing where they were supposed to do an independent study, had they paid their right amount of money from previous years? There was supposed to be a big study on that. Did that ever come through? Is that how this position came to be with them paying $8 more? Or does that study still have to be done?
The study still has to be done. They've agreed to this, without even us having done the study, but we are going to take a further look. The rate study is still pending.
Okay. All righty. And then my second question, I happened to run across the fireman. I mean, not literally, but realizing how the consolidation was going. And he said things were going really well until the virus came, and now everything is being emailed back and forth, which is not as good as face-to-face. And so I was wondering, like, all these, like, schools and all are doing this, like, the Zoom and all, where you can do face-to-face, or, like, if you're in the council room, I mean, how many people are at these meetings that they could still have the meeting there? You could be, you said you spread it out long ways, and there's going to be like 8 to 10 people that you could spread out and still hold your consolidation meeting, right?
So I'm going to defer to Councilman Papero on that.
Hi, Janice, thanks for calling in. So the current process... Hi. Our application was submitted, waiting for the local finance board to have their next meeting. As far as what's being submitted back and forth through email is contract negotiations. And that often is done, and especially in these preliminary states. We can do that through email. So at the current time, unless new business administrator or the township attorney would like to comment, I believe that you can do collective bargaining and negotiations through email. Obviously, there's going to be some phone calls made, but at this point, I think everything seems to be moving well, and I'll let the business administrator comment on the rest.
Yes, it is. You're exactly right that the application went in, and so, but now we have to wait for the local finance board to meet and consider the application. Meanwhile, we've been doing the collective bargaining and negotiating, and in the beginning, or this part of it, it's getting a lot of data and information because of the magnitude of what we're doing. So a lot of that can be done through email, and it's not really necessary to meet at this point to, face-to-face yet to just collect data and information. There will be time for that, and I'm sure as the process continues to go on, we will be meeting with them to make sure that we're doing that. So the virus certainly probably slowed it down a little bit because local finance board, isn't meeting. So, once they start meeting again, I'm sure it'll pick up and start to go. So, but we're not stopping our discussions and our negotiations going forward because we still have a lot to do there.
Just to...
Okay, very good, and I'm glad things are going so well because they seem to be pleased with how you're reciprocating to them, so I thought that was good.
Janice, just to add on, I think where we are, you have to commend both sides. You have to commend the union, and you have to commend the administration for both coming together. This is a massive undertaking. You're taking many different collective bargaining agreements and salary scales and trying to merge them into one. So this undertaking is not something that was going to happen overnight. And while the virus is here and the circumstances are here, I think both sides are working together to come to a mutual agreement. It's just working out a lot of details and a lot of nuances that maybe they can be worked out over email, and I think that's where we're working towards together.
you'll make a success of it eventually.
Well, that's true anyway. What was your second question? What was your second question?
I do have one third thing. Can I do a third thing?
Yeah.
I did, about the sewers, and I did about the consolidation. And then the last one, I just want to compliment the council, because you are so different from what I am reading about the Trenton Council. It's wonderful. They should put you up to show them how a council should be run, because I am appalled with what I am reading. So I must compliment you on your, professionalism and your kindness and your, taking the time to do stuff and your patience, because you are outstanding compared to what Trenton has, and they would be blessed to have you.
Thank you, Janice. We appreciate the kind words.
Okay, have a good evening.
Good night. Thank you. And who do we have next? No one else in the queue. So with that, we will move on to comments from council. Yeah.
Q&A session is over.
We good? And with that, we'll move on to comments from council, starting with Councilman Whalen.
Well, first and foremost, I kind of last,
Meeting, I didn't get a chance to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day, so I hope all the mothers out there, not only in the room tonight, but the ones out there and listening throughout Hamilton, under these circumstances that we are in, had a wonderful Mother's Day. It's been probably 2 months, I guess, we're pushing. I don't know the exact amount of days or weeks with this pandemic and being stuck, whether it's in the house or just trying to manage through our lives, with whether it's your job or your children being home from school. But one thing's for sure, I think the residents, we need to compliment not only our residents, but need to compliment yourselves on what you've done, not only protecting your loved ones, but also respecting your neighbors through this, and it's been tough. But we also are coming out, restrictions are being lifted. Some businesses are starting to open back up again, and one thing I noticed through Hamilton, through this whole thing, is how our township Hamiltonians rise up to the occasion by supporting the businesses that were open. Even though they're open, they're still struggling because it's not normal activity. And hopefully, within the next few weeks, we start to see more and more businesses open and see some type of normalcy get back into our lives. That being said, naturally, Memorial Day is Monday, and we're all used to parades. One at Hamilton Square, and this year was going to mark the 150th anniversary of the Groveville Parade. And I know they probably had some good festivities planned for that day, and it's unfortunate that they're not going to be able to celebrate that. But then again, I guess more importantly, I just hope all the residents are mindful and honor the men and women of our armed services who valiantly gave their lives defending America and our way of life. So if we could take time over the weekend to remember that, I think that's very important. And that's all I have tonight, Council President.
Thank you, Council President. Echoing much of what Councilman Whalen, this is, always going second, you kind of usually say.
Oh, you're very good, though, so thank you. You're good.
No, but I was going to say about the same thing. I mean, Hamilton residents have just proven to us, as they always do, coming together. You see it in person, you see it through the organizations that have come together to help others in the community, and even on social media, just everybody helping everybody out. So I also want to recognize there are needs in the community, and making sure that that there are resources. I know we mention this every meeting. Just make sure, reach out. There's a lot of people willing to help. And I did just want to mention also on May 27th is the Great American Takeout. So I think by then also, because of lifting some of those restrictions, I think we're seeing more of the local restaurants are going to be open by then. And just encourage our residents to support all of our local restaurants on May 27th. And as a teacher, I just want to recognize, how hard this probably is for our graduates, and that we're thinking of you. And I'm sure Dr. Rocco is going to have some great plans, maybe again with lifting some of those restrictions. But I think, I can speak on behalf of all the council and the administration that we congratulate you on your accomplishments and look forward to celebrating. And with that, take care of yourselves and continue what we're doing.
I'm just going to be brief. I just want to thank all the members for being on the call today, all our township residents. And I've also noticed that Chuddy and Nancy, just the way that Hamiltonians have behaved during this, just my frequent trips to the food store and to the retail establishments that are slowly opening up. I see that people are abiding, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel here. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Also, just if you ever need any business assistance, we recently, in my full-time job, we had a business webinar regarding some business opportunities, grants, loans, incentives. It may be something that that you can consider, and feel free to reach out to me either in my township role or my county role. So I appreciate everyone who listened in this evening, and we're getting through this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Papero.
So first and foremost, we have to thank our wonderful IT guy, Kevin. As we've come accustomed to, you always get the first shout out, so thank you for everything. Without you, this meeting wouldn't happen, so appreciate you being here. I'm sure everybody feels the same. Also like to thank the directors for being here and the rest of the mayor's staff. Aside from that, I think we need to acknowledge the recent passing of retired Hamilton Police Detective Lieutenant Chuck Stanley. He was a respected member of the community, put a lot of hours into our PD. Please keep his family and friends and the entire Hamilton Police Department family in your thoughts. Next, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I believe it was brought up last month. I'd just like to always point that out as a friend of someone who suffered from a mental health illness. I just want to say help is available. There are resources on the county website and the Hamilton Township website. There are also organizations such as Cop to Cop that are available for our first responders. Next, just want to echo something that Councilwoman said as far as the businesses starting to reopen. Don't forget that the Great American Takeout is Wednesday, May 27th, and to keep your local businesses in mind. Something I think that gets forgotten is, as we move through this pandemic, is the constant fight with the opioid epidemic that we faced. Since 2019 in Hamilton Township, we've had 23 overdose deaths. I don't think that number's been spoken about enough. I think while the pandemic has taken precedence, I think that there's a lot of families that have been destroyed, a lot of lives that have been destroyed with this epidemic, and I think we have to continue to fight. Please keep in mind there are options. You do have help. Recovery advocates and City of Angels are out there for help. They are in our community. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up is I know there's been a lot of complaints about speeding and careless driving. It seems that during this pandemic, even though there's less cars on the road, it seems like people decided that they wanted to drive faster and a little more careless. I think that everybody needs to remember that just because there's less cars on the road, there's more bikes, there's more kids, there's more pedestrians, there's more people around. Not paying attention, being on your phone are all things that obviously are unsafe, and I think the message is be safe and slow down. One incident about 2 weeks ago that happened on Bow Hill Avenue was a postal worker parked on the side of the road. You know, we often forget that even during this pandemic, while most of us are sitting home, working from home, our postal workers have continued to work. there was a postal vehicle parked on Boho Avenue in the area of Marshall, Annabelle, and Rieger Avenue. Worker was out delivering his mail on his route, and vehicle was struck. Vehicle was driving at a high rate of speed, took off the mirror of the vehicle. So very easily, that could have been a child riding a bike, could have been a runner jogging for exercise, and I think that some of these things, I think they need to be corrected. We need to take responsibility as drivers to slow down a little bit and take our time we're going to get where we have to get. We just need to be a little more responsible. With that said, thank you, everybody, for calling in. We know it's not the easiest way to hold a meeting, but thank you for your participation, and I look forward to seeing everybody in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone. I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. We do have normally 2 great parades. This year we'll be having none, as Councilman Whalen pointed out. It's especially tough for Groveville. They have the oldest Memorial Day parade in the country. Goes back to the year after the Civil War that parade has been taking place. And I look forward to commemorating that sometime in the future with them when we are all able to come together. I urge everyone to continue to be safe as we start to see a relaxation of some of the distancing that we've had to do to continue to maintain safe distancing, to continue to wear your masks. I know that the Township is cautiously opening up some facilities, including the animal shelter, to volunteers. And I want to give a special shout out to the workers at the animal shelter for the tremendous job that they've been doing shorthanded all this time. The volunteers play an important part in the care of the dogs and cats at the shelter, and the employees have had to go it alone without the help that they're accustomed to from our great volunteers, and they've done a tremendous job. I want to commend Director Kathy Fitzgerald, our Director of Health, for the leadership that she's been providing in that regard, and with the pandemic and everything else that she has had to deal with. But the shelter in particular, there was concern at the beginning of the pandemic that we would see a surge of animal surrenders, and in fact, we've seen a surge in adoptions. The shelter, as of today, is down to 8 dogs in the shelter, which is really tremendous. I know that the director was telling me they brought in an animal behavioral specialist. They're really working proactively to get as many of these animals in a home as possible, and I commend them for the work that they're doing. So with that, I just once again want to thank everyone for all of your work, to the entire community, for the patience and the kindness that you've been showing to one another out there. Let's keep it up, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Excuse me. With that, we're going to, that concludes our public business this evening. So what we did was we scheduled an executive session regarding a resolution in we're going into executive session to discuss legal matters. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk.
Carabelli?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Whalen?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
And with that, the public portion, the substantial public portion of the meeting is concluded. For anyone who's on the line, when the next time I come back on the line, I'll just be adjourning the meeting.
We're going to stay here.
Yeah, we can just stay
Oh, we're
here.
here?
Who's going to turn the camera off?
I got the, oh, yes, I got 3 different recordings going on, I only needed one.
I don't advise staying in this room, I think we need
Yeah,
to go.
I'd rather leave the video going, leave that thing
Take
going.
the video off, I take everything off. I'm sorry, no, pause, we still have to come in and actually formally.
And we are
I do all the
back. We are out of executive session. Everyone is back in the room, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.